time a woman stands up for herself, without knowing it possibly, without claiming it, she stands up for all women. This quote from Maya Angelou starts us off today as we continue our conversations about the power of process. Welcome to the Modern Creative Woman podcast, and this is for women like you who want to elevate their creativity and start applying creative thinking in their everyday life. I'm your hostess and creativity expert, Dr. Amy Beckos. Through our conversations and creative insights, I'll provide simple science-backed tricks and proven creative practices that will help take the mystery out of the creative process so that you can start each day feeling empowered, creative, and ready to take on whatever comes your way. Let's get started. We have so many choices to make this time of year. Will we do the usual holiday traditions? Will we have a New Year's resolution? Will we feel good or guilty? Will we give? How much will we give? There is a lot that goes into choice. And so I wanted to talk today about neuroscience of choice and the brain mechanisms involved in dealing with complicated choices or simple choices. Friends, before we dive into the topic, I want to share with you an exciting retreat that the Modern Creative Woman is hosting January 25th, live in person in San Francisco. If you're committed to doing this work, there just is no substitute to doing it in person. We will be making art, having fun, and committing to artful resolutions. And because most of us give up resolutions by about January 19th, I have timed this retreat to help women really take a deep dive into what's important to them, name it, acknowledge it, and figure out how to take action on it. This is all about values and committed action. And I think this would be such an exciting opportunity for anyone who's really interested in letting go of excuses, pursuing their dreams, even if they're hesitant or they're scared. This is a transformative, hands-on, intensive workshop all day, San Francisco, January 25th. If this appeals to you, you can find the link in the show notes. You can message me and I will send you some information. This will be the most powerful retreat that I've ever done in a condensed form, and it will give you material that you will be able to use for the entire rest of the year. You'll be planning, organizing, creating, and then taking action. I really hope to see you there. All right, let's get back into it. There are 4 parts of our brain that are actively involved in choice. The prefrontal cortex, and remember, that's really about executive control. It's the center of logic and reasoning. The second one is our limbic system, and that relates to the emotional responses we have about choice. The third is the anterior cingulate cortex, and that part is weighing the costs and benefits of each of our choices. And finally, the striatum is involved in evaluating potential reward associated with any choice we might make. So this is a complex process. Our brain's moving through 3 steps over and over every time we make a choice. The first is information processing, and that's when the choice is presented to us. It might be sensory information. We read something, we see something, we remember we're supposed to bake cookies for the potluck down the street, but it's taken in, the choice is presented. Should I go to the party? Should I cancel? It's all processed by, these relevant brain systems that I just mentioned before it moves on to the next step, which is evaluation and comparison. And that's all about the prefrontal cortex, analyzing the pros and cons of each choice. The limbic system simultaneously is assessing the emotional associations that go along with each choice. And this is happening whether the choices are complex or simple. There's certainly ones that are more automatic, but this process is the same for big or small decisions. And finally, there's a decision formation. It's based on the evaluation that your brain has done. Your brain finally selects the most beneficial option. And it's important to remember that your brain uses both rational and emotional factors. Both are relevant. And I also think about how values are extremely relevant to us in decision making. We can use our values to guide our choice and help our brain along, give our brain some direction in what to think about and how to think about it. Now, there's many studies that are demonstrating that brain activity indicates what a person will choose on some of these automatic habits before we are even consciously aware of the choice. And for example, if you're reaching out in the morning to choose a cup for your coffee, there's so many computations in your brain, and they're programming the exact spatiotemporal profile of how your muscles will activate that leads you to grab the cup that you want. Now, again, with these automatic habits, it's incredible to learn that the brain is registering these decisions to move before we are even consciously aware. We simply are not aware of what researchers are calling the subconscious neural behaviors. And I found a very interesting study from the Journal of Current Biology. It's a 2022 study. It's Angelou et al. And it writes about these subconscious neural behaviors. And these are connecting our goals, such as I want to drink coffee, with the movement and action that will make it happen, choosing the cup. And this research is, the basic science research that's designed to help people with brain injury or paralysis or just limitations in their locomotion. This is the kind of science that is helping people regain their abilities, but it has incredible implications for everyone. Now, how might this particular study relate to choices that you're making on a day-to-day basis? And more specifically, how might this relate to whatever's coming up for you? Now, we could all probably predict how we're likely to react during the holidays. Thoughts, feelings, actions. Now, our brains are really efficient. They are not interested in working too hard. They want to simplify. They create templates and schemas and structures that allow us to move quickly through the world. And it starts very young. If we learn that something is a chair, we learn that other things that look similar are also chairs. So we don't have to learn that this object in someone's home or a waiting room is also a chair, even though it looks different from a chair at home. Our brain figures out that this is part of a category. And it's very efficient. It also leads to various problems, and we have to unlearn a lot of that strategy that our brain tried to be efficient with. Now, your brain might have already decided how you will act and think and feel around the holidays, but perhaps you want to feel differently this year. Perhaps you want to feel more relaxed, at ease, and systems can be really helpful. And we all know that decisions and small steps compound and lead to big changes in our life. So small changes, starting to rely on systems and predictability, can really help change our brains and our behaviors in powerful ways. The good news is our brains have the ability to grow and change. They can adopt new approaches. They can integrate new information into our existing brain systems or change our structure and our belief by challenging it. We certainly know that learning can increase our IQ. We're not stuck with the brain we have. We're not doomed to keep repeating the same stress year after year. We can change. I got to thinking that perhaps our grandmothers, though, were onto something with traditions. Traditions make things simple, if you like the traditions. The same music, the same food, the same decorations. It simplifies what we're going to do. We don't have to every year figure out what to feed the family, what kind of music to play. We can rely on traditions to eliminate some of those choices, and that's helpful. There are ways that you can use traditions in powerful ways by crafting ones that suit you very well. My mom started a tradition when maybe I was 17 or 18, giving me a piece of pottery, handmade pottery of a dining set. And she'd give me a piece or two every year for different holidays. And eventually I had a set. I still have the set. It's gorgeous. I use it every day. After I had my dining set, she started gifting me my grandmother's books and jewelry. And it's a lovely tradition. I so appreciated both of these. It also simplified her Christmas. She knew what was coming and she knew what she could give me. Now, there's certainly traditions that each of us have for holidays. Driving around, looking at holiday lights was one that I always enjoyed. Going to the tree lighting downtown. I always try and give to toy drives, give money to some of my favorite charities. And I shared those favorite charities in the December newsletter. So make sure you get on the newsletter. You can find that link in the show notes. And certainly we all have special foods that we associate with the holidays. And again, these kinds of traditions simplify, but you're not stuck with them. You don't have to keep making the same food over and over if nobody likes it. You can do something different. You are in no way obligated to keep traditions for the sake of tradition. I'm sure you're familiar with the story that goes around about Mom cutting the end of the turkey off every year before she put it in the oven, and then teaching the daughter to do the same thing. And the daughter said, "Why do we do this?" Mom said, "I don't know. Grandma taught me." They went and asked Grandma, and Grandma said, "Oh, well, when I was young, we had a small oven, and I had to always cut the top of the turkey off." Right? It became a tradition that was practical. She couldn't fit the turkey into the oven without cutting part of it off. So that tradition got passed down long past when it was efficient or practical. And it took the granddaughter to say, "Why are we doing this?" to be able to make a change. So you can keep asking yourself in a creative way, why am I doing this? Do I like this? Is there something different I would like to create? It's really about changing how you feel about the holidays and to be consciously aware of those external and internal traditions. An external tradition might be traveling at the holidays or going to look at lights. And that internal tradition might be feeling stressed and rushed during that airport busy season. All we need to do is shift our attention to be present, observe, and make conscious choices. And it's not too late. You can't say, well, it's too late, maybe next year. Well, you could. But you can also change things now. There is no reason why you can't start changing things to be the way you like. You can have a conversation with people. I'd like to try something different this year. You can make some notes in your calendar for 10 months from now and start working on new traditions before it comes up again next year. But you really do have a lot of options and a lot of choices. Just remember that study. The subconscious neural behaviors are just happening automatically. Your brain knows before you know. Let me tell you more about that study. Here's some details about the experiment. Now, the participants they were working with had a little implanted microelectrode that was recording just a single neuron activity. And they were looking specifically in the posterior parietal cortex. They were just looking for a single neuron to fire in there that was indicating that choice and decision was happening. And they told participants, you're free to move whenever you want. You can move what you want. Move your leg, move your fingers. And they were just asked to report the time that they felt the urge to move. So they had a little clicker. Oh, I feel like I want to move my leg. And they would click. They would indicate when they became aware of wanting to move. And a lot of this study confirms these prior studies showing the posterior parietal cortex and the neural activity there is sharply rising hundreds of milliseconds before the reported urge. And this study also found that that pre-conscious activity is part of this dynamic neural response that's initiating much earlier than the person is aware of. So we know where this is happening in our brain. And now we know it's happening before it even comes to our conscious awareness. So that idea that it's subconscious neural behaviors, right? It's not in our conscious awareness. It's buried down there, the decision, before we actually become aware of it. And they also notice the details of this neural timing. And that posterior-parietal cortex is encoding this internal model. And it's part of this motor planning network that moves us from, I want coffee, which they describe as a high-level task objective, right? Like, that's what I'm going for. That's what I want to do. I want my coffee, into the appropriate action, the motion, which is picking a mug from the cabinet. So I started playing around with this idea and wondering how we could apply this into our day-to-day. And I think it fits best with presence. And that's one of the pillars of the Modern Creative Woman. Inside the membership, we spend 1 week each month on the idea of presence, making contact with the present moment, being mindfully aware. And of course, that includes being non-judgmental of ourselves. So you can do this now or you can try it later. It's an active meditation. And find a comfortable spot and just hold your body still where it is. You can move anytime and in any way that you like. You can perform like a simple, typical movement, like have a sip of your water or just move your feet, cross your legs, whatever you would normally do. And you can also perform more intentional moves, like say you want to stretch your arms, roll your neck. You want to adjust your posture. So your task in moving or not moving is to go slow and just notice when you want to make the move and notice it before you actually move. So what that looks like in practice is I'd like to move my feet and then I can move my feet. And I'd like to gesture with my hands and then I can gesture with my hands. It's slowing down enough to notice each time you have the urge to move. I'd like to stretch my legs out and then stretch your legs out. So just take a few moments. This is a great exercise to relax yourself before bed. If you are, sitting at a traffic light, you can do it. If you are just going for a walk, you can see if you can notice your steps or when you have the urge to pause. So I'd be curious, what did you notice when you do that exercise? Do let me know. I found it really helpful and very interesting. I hope you'll consider how choice, the frequency of choice, the complexity of choice, requires so much brain power, and give yourself a little ease in knowing that your brain is working really hard to simplify choices for you. And you have choices available to you. You always have options. And that's where your creativity comes into play. Brainstorming is a really powerful way to consider your options and really get creative. And I'll tell you more about that in the next episode in terms of how to do brainstorming. So for this week, I really hope you will focus on noticing your choices, noticing the urge to move or do something, and just start to play around with that creatively. You can certainly make art doing that. You can put your pen on the paper and notice before you want to make a move and then make the move, the line across the page. There's so many powerful ways to use this brain science to make your brain a little more creative and also be a little gentler on yourself when you've got big choices to make. Your brain's trying to help you out and it wants to be really efficient. Let me know what you think. You can drop me a message in the show notes and certainly come find me on Instagram. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Now that you know about how to use your creativity, what will you create? Want more? Subscribe to the Modern Creative Woman digital magazine. It's absolutely free and it comes out once a month. And I know you can get a lot out of the podcast and the digital magazine. Yet when you're ready to take it to the next level, I want you to know you have options inside the membership. And if you're interested in a private consultation, please feel free to book a call with me. Even if you just have some questions, go ahead and book a call. My contact is in the show notes, and you can always message me on Instagram. Do come find me and the Modern Creative Woman on Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest at Dr. Amy Bacos. If you like what you're hearing on the Modern Creative Woman podcast, I want to give you the scoop on how you can support the podcast. You can be an ambassador and share the podcast link with 3 of your friends. You can be a community supporter by leaving a 5-star review if you think it's worth the 5 stars. And you can become a gold star supporter for as little as $3 a month. All those links are in the show notes. Remember to grab your free copy of the 21-Day Gratitude Challenge. The link is in the show notes, and you can find it at moderncreativewoman.com. Have a wonderful week, and I cannot wait to talk with you in the next episode.